this computer. All right, we're learning about the 8 lights of Chanuka and how the 8 lights of Chanuka correspond to what's called the 8 anointed men. Unlike the 7 lights of the Holy Temple that were in the 7 branches of the menorah that were in the Holy Temple, that corresponds to what's called the 7 shepherds of the Jewish people that provide nourishment to the Jewish soul, make a person feel more Jewish, loving God, fear of God, having mercy, balance in your service of God, being aware of God. That's what was provided for by Abraham, Isaac, Yitzchak, and Moshe, etc. They provided and building the soul, the Jewish soul, from the inside. And that works fine in the Holy Temple when everything is holy and the way it's supposed to be. But when it's not, when it's a time of exile and confusion, and like we said, the Greeks, they tried to destroy the Jewish soul, and the majority of the Jews agreed with them and joined with them, then the 7 normal powers, the 7 shepherds nourishing the Jewish soul is not sufficient. There has to be a power which is above that, and that's what's called the makifim, the surrounding powers of the Jewish soul, the surrounding powers of the Jewish soul. And that was provided by the 8 anointed men. What are these surrounding powers of the Jewish soul? This is mostly what's called self-sacrifice. Not building up your soul, but being willing to sacrifice your soul. Not improving and building up your Jewishness, but willing to sacrifice everything, even your very life, for Judaism. That's what happened in the holiday of Chanuka. A handful of Jews refused to go according to the standards of the Greeks. The Greeks did not destroy the temple. The Greeks did not say the Jews had to stop learning Torah or doing commandments. They just wanted to normalize everything. You can learn the Torah, you can do the commandments, but not with self-sacrifice. You can't do it only for God. You have to do it for yourself. You learn Torah, you do the commandments, and God will help you. Right? God will give you heaven, he'll give you success, he'll give you this, he'll give you everything, which is pretty much true. But what happens when it doesn't happen? What happens when the Greeks take over the world, or the communists, or they take over the world, and they're against learning Torah? Napoleon, and he's against learning the Torah. So you say, well, listen, I was doing the whole business just for myself anyway, so I'm not getting anything out of this Torah stuff. So I'll just do whatever I can, that I won't lose anything. That's normal. Well, that's not Chanukah. That's not the essence of the Judaism. That's not what's called surrounding levels. This is the level of Makif. Look, and therefore, Ne'emar, it says, Ashur ki yavo. That's the prophecy of Micha. It says when Ashur comes. In other words, what does it mean? Ashur, they took over. The Assyrians, they took over conquered at least the 10 tribes. Then you're going to have 7. It says when the Jewish people become conquered, this is in the first temple, right? You become conquered by the non-Jews and the temple is destroyed, then you're going to have the 7 shepherds and the 8 anointed men. The 7 shepherds aren't going to be enough. Having love of God and fear of God and serving God in a normal way and learning Torah, this is all wonderful, but it's not enough. You're going to have the 8 anointed men. That's this number 8. The means of these 8 anointed men, Yidhu Ara. You can push away the bad. You can push away the egotism. Bibechina echad, and in one way, yoter, more, me'al yedei haroim, than by means of the shepherds. Ki haroim, because these shepherds, shehem hamshacha, bebechinas panemius, which they draw godliness down in an inner way. Just let me have a look over here, just 1 second. Let me just have a look here, 1 second. That's right. Hine baribo yashtalshlus. These 7 shepherds, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, the people who visit the sukkah, what's called the ushpizin on Sukkot. It's called the spiritual visitors on Sukkot. Right? Sukkot is a holy holiday. Sukkot is a holiday from the time it's written in the Torah. It's a holiday in the holy temple. And then there comes visiting us. In our holy sukkah comes the 7 shepherds that they provide inner panemius, inner development for the Jewish soul. But there's a problem with this. When these 7 shepherds come down further and further, their influence into the world, love, fear, you can have unika lechitzonim. You can have what's called a nurture to the bad side, the external forces. Al derech mashal, like it says, mitzuporna yadav, like for instance, from the fingernails, it says the fingernails are dead, but they grow from a person's, not like Avram and like Abraham. It says Abraham was holy, but from Abraham came Yishmael. From all these inner levels, there can come something not good also, etc. Torah. Also, a person can learn the Torah. Moshe gave us the Torah, the holy, pure Torah, right? What can be wrong with the Torah? Well, the Torah can. It says, I'm going to tell there's some people, they're too severe with the Torah. They cut out any love, any humanness. But the Torah is great. What could be wrong with the Torah? It says, from all these things, loving God, fearing God, there can result bad things. For instance, Kal Omer Ein Li Torah, a person that says that all I have is just the Torah. I'm not going to waste my time praying or doing good deeds, just Torah all the time, says he doesn't even have the Torah. And therefore, there has to be, now in this time of exile, there has to be also, and really all the time, but now it's necessary. Hamshacha mishmon nesichei adam. There has to be drawing down from what's called the 8 anointed men. Bechinas makifim. This is a surrounding level. Above normal. Above the ego. Shahamakif mesame eni achitzonim. That says that the surrounding levels, this blinds the eyes of the evil. Huli. I'll just tell you a short story about this. There wasn't, in the time of the 3rd Rebbe of Chabad, at Tzemach Tzedek, there was a very, very big effort on the part of what they called intellectual Jews, modern Jews, whatever they called themselves back then. They were called the Maskilim. And these were Jews that they really knew the Torah. Their parents were religious. And a lot of their parents had been big Talmudic scholars and very orthodox people. And they became totally non-religious, especially from the influence of German philosophy and French philosophy. And so they became totally anti-religious. And they had tremendous success. They had tremendous success because they knew so much Torah, so they would disguise themselves as Torah scholars or teachers. They would go into different communities and they would get jobs as teaching the children, and then they would convince all the children. They would put little doubts into their mind and eventually say to their parents, your child is a genius. We want to send them to a special school in Berlin or whatever. And the children would go and they would become non-religious. And this swept like a wildfire across all of Europe, especially, and also the western part of Russia. So, but in Chabad, they didn't have much success. So there was a fellow's name was Lilienthal. He sent his messengers, or maybe he went himself, to the Tzemach Tzedek, and they wrote back and they said that we can't have any success here. He says, why? So because in the marketplace, even the ladies, the Jewish ladies, before they'll even mention the name of the Rebbe, right? They say that the Tzemach Tzedek, the Rebbe, they'll even say the Rebbe, they won't say it before washing their hands. In other words, they're insane. They're just insane. This connection to God and connection to the Rebbe, it's just insane. It's just crazy. It doesn't make any sense. And therefore, somebody that doesn't work with any sense, we can't get into him. We have no way to get in. He has no ego that we can work on. We can promise them success, promise them fame, promise them money, promise them pleasure, freedom. And they're not willing to listen to any of these things, even the sugar, they're going to get it. Right? It just doesn't talk by them. And that's what happened in the holiday of Chanuka. The Greeks promised the Jews everything, and they came across. The Jews are fun-loving people. I mean, in a way, you can see what Judaism does to the Jews. Jews without Judaism, right? Like it's a totally different thing. You see the all right. Let's the other religions, in the name of their religion, they can go and they can kill and they can do it. They can permit everything, right? But Judaism, we see that a Jew, that he becomes non-religious. So it's the opposite of Judaism. Like it was in the time there used to be these, in the 20s and the 30s, there used to be these gangs, and there was the criminals, the organized crime. The worst ones were the Jews, Murder Incorporated and the Purple Gang. Those were the Jews. They were the worst of all of them. They were terrible, right? The Torah controls an uncontrollable people. That's what the Torah does. But there's a way of putting the Torah inside of people, and that is, you convince them it's worth your while. You'll have a better family. You'll have a better life. You'll have better. It's better not to kill, not to steal, not to this. And that's what's called the 7 shepherds, in a way. It's better for you. You love God. You love. And then a person benefits himself. The Torah is wonderful. It gives you this. Then you get this world. You get the world to come. But what happens when things go bad? What happens when the communists take over? What happens when the Greeks take over? So then all those people who are doing it for themselves, learning Torah for themselves, they say, hey, let's do whatever we can that will benefit ourselves. So we'll drop this crazy stuff about God and, serving God with crazy, washing your hands before you even mention the Rebbe's name, let's drop all that stuff. Let's be normal like the Greeks. We'll light the candles in the holy temple, but it won't be pure oil. It's even permissible according to the Torah. So there was just a few people that were crazy. Where did they get this craziness from? That's from the 8 anointed men. The Torah, and this is the thing you can't plan. You can't plan. I mean, I can give this class now and tell you this is the way it is. I don't even know if I would do this. I would be one of the Yavanim. I pray to God that I wouldn't be, but I might be one of the people say, listen, I mean, myself, I'm willing to risk, but my family, and everything I've worked for, I have pupils, I'm writing a book, I have things that I want to do. What benefit am I going to get if these people kill me? So I'll just play along. Who knows? It's a thing you can't plan in the beginning. Sometimes the most simple people are the ones that are willing to give everything in their lives for Judaism, and the people that could be the biggest geniuses, which I'm sure there were a lot of them in the time of the Second Temple, before even the Mishnah was written. The people knew the whole Torah. Everyone knew. So it says that in order to hold against this, you have to have a power which is above. That's the number 8, and that's the 8 anointed men. That's what it means, the Torah and good deeds. Not enough to just learn Torah. You have to have also good deeds. Al Yedei Torah means the Torah, this draws down mazon, food to the soul. That's the level of the shepherds. But by means of gamilos chasadim, but by means of doing good deeds, this nimshach bechinas lavush, you have to stop learning the Torah sometimes. You go out and do good deeds. This draws down what's a surrounding level. This draws down, especially by means of the commandments. This is a crazy connection to God. The commandments. That by means of putting on a couple of boxes that you're connected to the essence of God, this makes no sense. It's exactly right. It makes no sense. You're connected to a level of godliness that makes no sense. That comes from what's called the Nesichi Adam, the 8 anointed men. Gadol Shemusha, like it says, Gadol Shemusha miTorah Yosem milumuda. It says it's greater to serve, to do the Torah, and to serve those who learn the Torah, than to actually learn. In other words, to put your learning into action, the action in a way is higher than the learning itself. You can't do the action if you don't learn, but the action in a way is higher. But Yuven, Yoter, which is like, that's like anything, right? Let's say a person goes to university and he learns how to be a doctor, a brain surgeon, and he never operates on anybody. Right? He never operates on it. The main thing is to save somebody's life. So, nah, come on, I get all dirty, maybe the guy's going to die. I don't want that. I'll learn in the university. I'll be a teacher. I get a big title. I get tenure. I get everything. If I become a doctor, it's smelly. I have to talk to other people and deal with other people. Sometimes they say, give me a suture. He doesn't want to give me a suture. I stay at university. The action, in a way, is higher than the learning, the deed. But on the other hand, the action doesn't make any sense. How is it that, a brain surgeon, he cuts somebody, it heals the person? How does that work? Where does health come from? Where does the soul come from? It comes from the body, and the body. This is, the physical world, in a way, is much higher than the spiritual. And this can only be appreciated by taking an attitude of these 8 men, self-sacrifice. Forget about myself. Let's just think about the truth. Yuvan Yota, we can even understand the difference between these shepherds and the 7 shepherds and the 8 anointed men. Like, we find an interesting story. There's an interesting story about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he was the Sarah Torah. He was the king of the Torah. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, after the temple was destroyed, the second temple was destroyed. So it says Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he snuck out. They had him. They snuck him out of Yerushalayim. It's all Gomorrah and Gittin. We learned it on Tisha B'Av. They snuck him out of Yerushalayim, and he said, "Give me Avner Chachmecha." He said, "I want to restore the." So he restored the whole Torah. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He taught the whole Torah to all the Jews. Nevertheless, he said that Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa Bikash Alai Rachamim. He went to Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa and he said, "Do me a favor, pray for me. Shetafilato yoter gadol yoter harbeh, that your prayer is higher than mine." Achi ilmole hitiso Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. It says, if Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's wife said to him, "How could it possibly be that Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa is greater than you?" He's not his Torah learning doesn't reach anywhere near as your Torah learning. It says Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, it says, Lo nimtza shehaya malamed Torah. We don't find that he taught Torah. At least not as much as Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Lo nimtza b'shemot dinim in Mishnah. We don't find any laws in the Mishnah from Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Nevertheless, says his wife said, he's greater than you. And he said, listen, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, if Ben Zakkai, if I would put my head between my knees and pray to God all day, I wouldn't be answered. And he just, 1 second, he gets answered. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, lo yabo b'chinas zu. He didn't have this level of Torah, but he was a big tzaddik. He was a tzaddik tamim. He was pure with God. B'li shum dofi. He didn't have any doubts, any problems in his connection to God, until the rabbis say, Shalom nivra olam haba ela bishvilo. It says that the world to come was only created bishvil Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. V'hayu makablim mimenu neshamas Yisrael darche avoda v'chasidus. They received from Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai an attitude, how to serve God. The attitude one should have, a total surrender to the Creator. That's what it means. Like we said, it's greater to do than it is to learn. His prayer was nishmat. His prayer was answered more than Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who was 100 times greater than he was in Torah. Became Ne'amar, and it also says, V'hakimono alav shiva roim. That's what it says, that I will give you 7 shepherds. The 7 shepherds, that's like Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. And the 8 anointed men, that's like Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Adam, that the anointed men, this helps more neged bechinas ashur, against the forces of the conquerors of the non-Jews, of the egotism, kiyavo, when it comes. Because they draw from a level which is called surrounding all the worlds, just like the prayer of Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, to transform nature. This is by means of drawing down this aspect of God, which is called Soviv Ka'omin. So we learned the 8 branches of the Chanuka menorah are not by accident. The 8 branches are in order to dispel the darkness of the exile. That corresponds to the 8 anointed men. Shalamayla Miseda Vadrag, it's totally above any sort of normal. That's why we see the lights of in the holy temple can only be lit by holy people and only in a holy place. They had to be pure. But the lights of Hanukkah, anybody can light it, and you can light it anywhere. When you nerot Hanukkah, that's the whole topic of the lights of Hanukkah. The Greeks came in, v'timu kol shmanim. They defiled all of the oil. They didn't pour the oil out. They didn't break the bottles. They just opened all the bottles, or they touched all the oil. They didn't change the nature of the oil at all. They just defiled, made impure all of the oil in the temple. Mitzad tagburas chachma de klipa, because they had tremendous power of chachma of klipa. Chachma of klipa is egotism. With egotism, you can defile anything. Therefore, they wanted the Jews to forget that it's your Torah. That's what we say in the prayer on Nisi. The main sin, the main war of the Greeks was against the connection of the Jews, the irrational connection of the Jews to God. To learn Torah was okay, but don't learn Torah in an irrational way. You want to do the commandments? We also have our rituals, but don't do it in an irrational way connected to God. Do it because it satisfies your psychological needs, your emotional needs, your sociological needs, right? Everybody else does it. You have friendship, you have friends, we all get together, right? We all do the commandments, the rituals, right? It gives us power, it gives us a feeling of identity, right? We're all Jews. We have our land, we have our religion, we have our this. So that the Greeks are okay with. But don't be crazy. Okay, and therefore, therefore they had to draw from a level which is above wisdom of Kedusha. Therefore, they had to draw from this level of makifim, this surrounding level. That's what it means, the pach shel shem, and this is the bottle of oil that was sealed, the chotma, with the seal of the Kohen Gadol, of the high priest. Shu b'chinas rav chesed, which this is the as of tremendous love of God. This is what's called the surrounding level of godliness. Ki lefi, because shum b'chinas makif nimshach v'nishpal gam lamata, because it's what's called the surrounding level. Then sometimes the surrounding is like a circle, right? It's a circle and a line. So a circle goes around the outside of a line. A circle. The top of the circle is connected to the bottom, the very lowest part of the circle. Circle. It says that's what's called the surrounding level. That's why it's called surrounding level of godliness. It's not like a circle, it doesn't go around the world, it's everywhere. But it's an aspect of godliness that cannot be grasped, cannot be understood. In simple language, the Creator. The Creator. That's simple language. Really, in higher languages, the reason for the creation. But the Creator, we can't conceive that there's a Creator, that He creates the spiritual. All the religions in the world are based on some spiritual level, revelation. Judaism is we believe only in the Creator. He creates everything from nothing. This is what's called a makif, surrounded. This is incomprehensible. And this is it can only be achieved by means of being a little bit crazy. You have to be what's called shtut to kedusha. You have to be crazy. Like the Hashmonei war. Even now, that's why it comes down. Even now in our generation, she'ein beit hamikdash, there is no holy temple. And then we can still light this level, which is surrounding, which is not the case in the holy temple. There was only 7. This comes from the 7 shepherds. There were 7 branches to the menorah corresponding to the 7 shepherds. But what? It was revealed. It was revealed in an inner way. In the holy temple, it was holy. Like it says, Edut Hilaboy Olam, that the menorah in the Beit HaMikdash was a testimony. You could go there and see that there's God. There's a creator. Like we're going to learn later on in the next paragraph. Ata Neri Hashem Yegiach Hashchi. There's the pasuk that says, Ki ata neri havaya, that you are my light, God. Hashem, God, 2 times the name God. God, Yegiach Hashchi. Something like in Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Why do you have to have 2? The first name of God, Hu Bechinat Hishtalshlut. This is the level which is connected to the creation of the world. Umimeno Nimshach Bechinat Ata Neri. This is what you are my lamp. This is what was revealed in the temple. Namely, the Nerot of the Mikdash. We could feel this is Jews, it's our God. We feel God, the creator of the universe. We feel that there's a connection between him and the Jewish people. But the second name of God, Ata Neri Hashem, Hashem Yegiach Hashchi, God, you will illuminate my darkness. This second name of God, this represents the level of Sovev Kolomim, surrounding. This is above Hishtalshlus. This is above the chain of creation. From this comes the level of Yegiach Hashchi, is the level of that you dispel the darkness. These are the lights of Chanuka. Let's just do a little bit more, because we had that. Similarly, it is the difference between the level of the Sheva Roim, the 7 shepherds, and the 8 anointed men. Key, because Al Yedei Sheva Roim, by means of these 7 shepherds, Nimshach Hamshachat Hamazon, there was drawn down what's called food to Knesset Yisrael. By means of the 7 shepherds and the 7 branches of the menorah, this nourished the souls of the Jews. But this made it easier to learn Torah, to love God, to fear God. This is what can be drawn into an inner personal way, inside of my soul. This is the name of Hashem, which is drawn down into the worlds. Atzilut, Bria, Yetzir, and Asiyah. That's when things are the way they're supposed to be. This is the job of the Jewish people, to make the world more healthy. The whole world, you feel godliness, feel health, life, happiness, love. All by means of Nimsa Chiadam, by means of what's called the anointed men, Nimshachim Bechinas Makifim, is drawn down the level of surrounding. This comes from the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is above any sort of enclothing in the worlds. This shines in a way of surrounding. Just like the idea of what we said before, the prayer of Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. This can transform nature. He says the one time there was no oil for Shabbat. And his wife said, he said, do you have anything else? She said, we've got vinegar, not oil. So he said, the same God that says that oil should light up. I mean, why does oil light? You put oil in a wick and it lights up. Why? I mean, you can explain it according to the laws of combustion and things that are combustible, and break it down. He says, that's who made these laws up? Who made up the laws of combustion? Who made it up? The same God that made up the law that says that oil burns he'll make up a law that says that vinegar burns, and sure enough, it burned. Huli, Kanish Galeel. This is by means of the commandments. The commandments, any Jew can do the commandments. You don't have to have any training. You don't have to understand anything in order to do a commandment. This is this drawing down this level of makifim. Mitzvahs, because the commandments, they are the commandments of the king. So therefore, this is also the level. Look what it says over in Chanuka's Abayas. Another mimer in just the last line, and we'll do preparation for tomorrow. Therefore, the Moshiach is one of the 8 anointed men. Mashiach, it says, Veherichu morach vadain. It says the Mashiach that he will judge by the smell, by smell. Reachu makif. This is the surrounding level of a person is unconscious. You give him a little smell, he wakes up. And that's the level of Mashiach is going to wake up the inside of every single Jew, the surrounding level. And that's why the holiday of Chanuka, perhaps more than any other, is connected to Mashiach, as we're going to talk about, God willing, tomorrow. Thank you all for coming. Now we're going to learn a Sikh of the Rebbe. Who knows what that blackout did? All right, let's go. So back.